Good evening, everyone. Let's make that look a little clearer. Ah, there we go. Hi. So happy to see all of you. Welcome. So excited about this webinar. This one is about having plenty and the patterns of plenty. But before we begin anything, may we scan all of you. Awesome. All right, let's walk up to the creator of all that is. Everybody, close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and gather all the energy from the bottoms of your feet. Go through your space and see yourself in a beautiful ball of light. Be any color, but take it up to the sky, the universe, a series of white lights, dark lights, and golden light, all the way up through that jelly-like substance and into that tingly white light. With unconditional love, fill every cell of your body. Once you're there, say, Creator, thank you for my life. Take a deep breath in and open your eyes. Okay. Perfect. Ready?
I think I'm ready.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Sounds like playing me.
Okay. Patterns of plenty.
You first?
Yeah.
Okay. Plenty is a very funny word, I think. We think in terms of the word and our connection to it, and all the times that we've been doing different things and the way that we've gone everywhere, there's always plenty. I think when we have this patterns of plenty discussion, the understanding is that you're shifting from what you have plenty of to what you like plenty of.
Usually it's when we're manifesting, we're trying to figure out what it is that that we want plenty of. And usually when people think plenty, they think money. I want more money. I want more of wealth. I need more abundance in that sort of area. And one of the things, or it could be love, or it could be freedom, it could be anything really. When we have patterns of plenty, one of the biggest things that we may have problems with is that that may be holding us back is understanding how to receive. Recognizing what it's like to receive is one of the biggest things about having plenty.
So yesterday, fun day. They do the little parades and they go around and there's lots of different people and there's mindsets. And we jump in the car afterwards and we start to have a discussion about, actually it ended up being about the word plenty in a way. We started talking about how people kind of jump in when there's plenty and they continue to move or what we call galvanize their base, right? They try to move them to action. And everybody says, oh, I don't like sales. I don't like marketing. And then they'll go out there and they'll join a community or they'll join a place, and then that community will want to grow. So somebody has to sell and market. And they end up just sort of being kind of talked to and told, hey, just do a little like this or take a step like that. And they start talking about it and the community starts to grow. Okay. All these different communities have grown this way. Then the community starts to grow to a certain point and they start to have this connection of plenty. And then people decide what to do with that energy. Where is it going to go? How are we going to move it forward? And as they start to do that, you start to get interference. So one of the things that comes up when you start to have plenty of anything is what level of interference do you have to deal with from that plenty?
I mean, we all have different types of belief work things that we have that come up, different blocks, different triggers. Some of the things, I even wrote some of them down. Some of the things that may come up are like, I have to earn everything I get. If I receive too much, something bad will happen. Or even success makes people jealous or distant. And these are really just created from different types of emotional stresses that we have, perhaps even from our ancestors, from not feeling safe. I mean, perhaps we needed to have that safety that we needed, or that we felt shameful, or not having things available because of the things that we wanted in our life. Let me take this off.
So as we kind of move through those different situations and we go into life, we start to see our interaction with things. And our subconscious is a magnificent connected energy to our soul and to our intuition. And then as we kind of grow in that connection and we move forward, it does one very magnificent thing. It tries to figure out the simplest solution that is known from inside of ourselves or in a situation to move through pressure, right? It's amazing how wonderful it is. So many people will come up and say, this is what I'm manifesting, and this is how it's going to make my life easier. But this little awesome connection of all these different pieces of information that we have from other times and places knows that a different version of plenty is new. It's brand new, and it comes with its own set of stresses.
And when it's new, just going into the unknown of something you haven't done before can be overwhelming for your cells. It could be so overwhelming that everything just kind of stops and says, this is unsafe. I don't know if I can go down that. The place where I've never been before. That can be really scary for most people, just because it's just kind of letting it free, letting it go. And that alone could be a trigger, which is one of the things that hold people back quite a bit.
So as we kind of move through our journey, we take a look at our interactions. Every word that we have experienced in our life carries a vibration. And even though we're talking about sort of this learned vibration, there's a big group consciousness to what plenty means, right? Where you're going to be and how you're going to be it. There's so many signals that pick up on certain things and so many lines that we put into what we think should be or is interpreted of how we take our plenty or how we receive bountifully of this or bountifully of that. This is a word that's going to create so much inner conflict because you're going to run into how you're judged for not only how much you have, but how you get what you have.
If you feel like you have to constantly push and push and push to get and receive what it is that you want, perhaps that in itself may be a way that you're constantly creating other things like turmoil to be brought into your life so that you can gain it. So that there's just so many things that can be stacked on each other in order to gain abundance.
At this time in our world, the industry that we're all in, that you're in, and teachers, and you grow and you become the next level, or if you've already been a teacher, all these different things, the industry you're in is one of the most popular industries in the world. Over the last 5 years, all of a sudden, things that people were not interested in about connecting to their self and their intuition, there's starting to be an overlap of different things from science. There's starting to be a revolution of connection to how people want to know themselves. And it's all happening right now. And one of the biggest questions that we get asked while we're going through this huge connection moment in our world is, how come all of a sudden things seem more difficult in my connection to people? Why does it seem harder to get classes? Why does it seem more difficult to make those types of connections that I think are going to be abundant? And the answer has a lot to do with plenty, right? The industry is popping, which means there's more people interested in the industry. There's more people communicating and talking about who and what they are. There's all of a sudden a bountiful amount of information and connection and people doing the things that really are success. Okay, success doesn't grow based off of how much money's in your bank account.
No, success grows off of how you can connect with others and to give yourself permission to do so. Allowing yourself that permission that you can have those types of relationships, that you can receive, that you can allow all those things have a lot to do with the permission you give and value you have within yourself.
So we talk about how our relationship with plenty and what it means. Having a way to build it going forward means understanding what you're building, the energy you're exchanging, and what you're creating plenty of, right? So if you're sitting in a moment and all of a sudden you're connected and you're doing something and you get that you should transfer the session for a hug, that instead of charging them, you should give them a hug, and you ignore it, then you're turning down part of your manifestation. And you're turning it down from the pressure of you needed a little more money right then. You couldn't see that that person with the hug, even though it appeared maybe they're already wealthy and they could afford it, maybe never got given something for a hug. And the action that you're being guided to from love and from their perspective is going to open up the door for the other parts of your manifestations. And we go through this a lot. We go through this in our lifetime. This is one of the reasons why belief work is so important. Understanding ourselves is so important. Self-alignment is so important. It's because we go through these pressures where we reach a situation and we feel like we have to grab a hold of everything we can grab a hold of in that situation, or it's going to be gone.
And that in itself is also a trigger. I mean, being able to have to hold on to everything all the time makes nothing be able to come through. And we've talked about this before, when you're trying to grasp water and it's just either it goes right over you because you're so busy trying to grasp, or you open your hand and you're able to cup some when the water's flowing. Which one are you more abundantly getting if you're allowing the water to flow through? Obviously, if you're going like this, it's just going to run right over you.
So it leads to all kinds of conversations and connections of how to grow in these moments and do these different things. And then there's all these programs about, well, the money's the cause. Well, money's not actually the cause. Okay, money's an energy exchange that lets us move forward in life. That's all that it is. And when you clear enough beliefs and come to understand that we're exchanging more than money, we exchange anger, we exchange fear, we exchange
happiness, joy. There's lots of emotions, virtues, things that we exchange all the time that can keep you in line with just your manifestations. But if you have things going on in the background, your subconscious, and you don't even know that are working because you picked it up from your ancestors, then those are the things that are going to hold you back from what it is you're trying to manifest and having plenty in your life.
So to look at yourself and find out what patterns of plenty you have, you should look at what things that you fear you need to limit. Okay, we talk regularly people who have anger, and there's wonderful quotes about anger causing bad things, and it makes it so people think anger is a terrible emotion. It needs to be eliminated from my life. But trying to eliminate a chemical reaction in your body that has a purpose, you need to understand the purpose before you can really eliminate something. And when you get down to the purpose, sometimes anger is just more energy. Sometimes it's just your body stimulating your adrenals, and that's what you've learned is the emotion of anger. Some people, wonderfully successful people, work very well with that emotion, but it doesn't come across as anger. It comes across as competitive
or passion.
It's literally a chemical signal that they've learned to say, oh, I don't want to identify this as anger that's a problem and be battling against it. I want to identify this as something that gives me an inkling into who I am and lets me know what I want to do with it. And so they change the pattern. A lot of times we end up creating things that we are trying to suppress. And we end up creating it because we're spending so much energy focusing on it, that the Wi-Fi of our cells is sending out the energy of that vibration, right?
And we know when we send out energy of vibration to bring things back to us, that's what we're gaining, even if it is that we don't know what it is we're sending out.
So at some point in life, somebody came up to you and said, don't be angry. That's what's causing all your problems. And you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because anger doesn't have a container in the body. It's not meant to be contained. It's supposed to be a quick signal and lets you know something's happening, you need more energy or something else, and you're supposed to process it and move forward. It's the container that we built that tries to harness it in a very interesting way that causes the problems. And so when we build those containers in our life, we're sort of limiting our connection to plenty, and that becomes the energy that we exchange. we sit down, we talk about conversations, we talk about what's going to happen. There's huge fears about what happens when you reach the next level. Heck, right now, we are going through all kinds of brand new things. And almost every day, there's a set of belief work about fear coming up because it's new. There's so much new pieces of information and industry things that we are learning every single day right now. Like how things have worked, that it confronts us very specifically with the concept of, do you want to really move forward in this energy, or would you like to go back to the little tiny spot that you're more comfortable with?
And sometimes just staying in that comfortable spot is perfect, and that's great. And then sometimes it's not. And we all, and I don't like really using the word chase because I like to attract more, but we all chase money for different reasons. Perhaps it's for security, it could be for validation, it could be freedom, it could be power, it could be whatever, it could be peace, whatever it is, but we all do it for different reasons. And when we're actually, if you look at it, it's kind of like money is a mirror for you, for each of us. It kind of tells us exactly what's going on inside of us. It shows whether we value things about ourselves, whether we can receive things, how it is. I mean, I see so many different things and ways that the abundance can come in, but sometimes having that mirror and seeing what things are you're sending out really to attract, give you the best clues as to why it's not getting or gaining and having the plenty that you're wanting.
You can have all the plenty in the world and the message that you think fixes things. And when you put it out there, you don't get the response that you were intending because it's your energy behind it. Right? So it's that mirror Raena was talking about, that connection of what you have. You have to see what's being kind of shown to yourself, but also there's a cool trick about that mirror. When you really get honest and take a look at it, you get to see what it's communicating to the world around. That takes a level of connection, takes a level of trusting yourself. It takes growing and understanding that you weren't really wrong.
No, but
you were learning.
And allowing yourself to get really, really vulnerable and understand that it's okay to be so. Would you like that download? That you can trust yourself in bringing abundance and plenty into your life by recognizing your value and have permission to do so.
So you already have patterns of plenty inside of yourselves. You just don't have the patterns of plenty that you want or think you want. So when you take a look at those patterns that are going on in your life, your body can easily create those things. And then there's a reason behind it. In order to shift it, you have to understand the reason why it's easy to create those things and why you choose to keep creating them that way. And that's why belief work is so important. It's one of those things that happens all the time. Like even right now, as we connect and feel this, there's an opportunity to feel yourselves, an opportunity to feel the moment, an opportunity to see the pattern of your situation, right? And you're showing it. You're showing it in your name. You're showing it in your video. You're showing it in the different things. You're showing little pieces of yourself. We don't want to look at those pieces of ourselves. Again, we go back to one of those pressures that gets created. And one of those pressures that gets created is fitting how we're supposed to fit.
Or what we think we're supposed to do.
So instead of being told, like, if you have anger or if you have frustration, we don't get told, okay, it's all right to be angry and frustrated. Let's talk about how we're using that energy and where it's going.
Like, or why it's there. Usually, or sometimes, if there's anger or frustration, there's other things going on besides that. Maybe it's because you feel shame or you feel embarrassed or you feel, it could be so many different things that are going on underneath the anger that's there. You feel unsafe, whatever.
It happened for you. It happens for your ancestors. You've inherited the ability to create and try to fit what you're supposed to be. Because there's this assumption that who you are and who you're supposed to be are two different things. And it's a small energetic thing that we've started to do and shift as we start to open up beliefs where we can know and understand and see from unconditional love different people, right? And when you see a person from unconditional love, you know that they fit, and you also know that they've gone through a lot of pressures. And again, it's always funny when we talk about things how much synergy there is around it. We had a discussion from a movie that was talking about how somebody had blocked out part of their lives. Great developmental thing for young minds to discuss as they're a little more into young adulthood. And as we're having this conversation, one of our nephew turns to us and says, would you do that? And of course, the response that they're expecting is no, because it was one of those things where it's shocking and it's a movie. And the answer from both of us was yes, absolutely. And they like stared at us. What do you mean you would do that? We explained. Well, see, you're asking, would you right now do that? But when you ask that question, it actually means if you were that person and you had lived all of that journey and you had felt all of those pressures, would you be the same way? If I had grown up in that household, in that situation, with the level of pressures that were being shown for us in this piece of information, it would have created very similar or the same things in terms of pressure. So this is the nature versus nurture part, right? We have nature and then we have our environment. And we learn how to respond to our environment from our ancestors. But as we respond, it's the perfect response. And then it gets validated, right? So in that conversation that we had, that person had plenty of things that started at a much younger moment. So the things that you're working on now are not from the things that happened right now. Okay, you got angry today. You got angry today because of something that started a long time ago, from your ancestors even, or from beyond that, from a different time and place. And your energy learned how to have that energetic exchange. It learned how to use it, and you've been doing it for a very long time. So if you want to make a change to a pattern, especially a pattern of plenty, the discussion starts with how long ago did this start? And what was it helping accomplish? For me,
what good thing?
For my ancestors.
What good thing are you getting by keeping it the same?
It was something. And when you ask that question, you can feel almost instantly if there's judgment behind it. It's one of the easiest things to tell when you start to do lots of belief work. Am I judging the belief? If you get rid of the, is this good, is this bad, and you just have a discussion with yourself about how it was created and what's going on, you start to get down to the pressure much faster than if you're judging yourself every sentence.
And that's where that mirror comes in, helping you to see the things that you're putting out there, the things you're judging of yourself, the things that, because that's really what it comes down to when you're doing belief work. I mean, really, are you judging the things that you have going on inside you? What's holding you back from receiving everything that you want?
If I could make one thing happen from Dig Deeper class, it would be that you come out of there knowing how to dig without judging yourself. Because we'll do appointments and we'll say, when's the first time that you felt something? And we'll clarify. Not necessarily the first time, just the first thing that comes to mind, okay? Doesn't really matter if it's the first time. We're using words and vibrations to give us images. Doesn't have to be absolutely accurate, because it's more about figuring out where the bottom is. And there are so many belief work sessions that get lost in different types of wording because they have a different kind of plenty. They have a plenty connection of this pattern, a plenty connection of wanting to make sure that it's right. A bountiful amount of corrections. Corrections is its own energy, man. So you can have plenty of corrections in your life.
Or plenty of control, or plenty of love, or plenty, whatever.
So the pattern you're looking for in there, and you can see it in belief work, you can ask yourself, when you're done here, ask yourself a belief work question, and then see how many different ways your subconscious tries to come up with to answer the question. If you have more than one way coming up with to answer the question, then you have a program that says there's a way you're supposed to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way that's acceptable. And you're not really going through your answers at first. You're going through all the answers that you think are acceptable to everything around.
What you're supposed to do.
So if we say, what's stopping you from having plenty of money? And you go, well, it's to other people. Well, it's my boss. Well, it's not being able to attract different things. Those are all answers you've learned fit into a social circle. Other people appreciate. Other people connect to. There's nothing wrong with that. You have taken on that pattern inside of yourself to be a part of those people.
But it may be holding you back from what you're actually asking for and having plenty.
It's just you start to feel anxious when you start to pull back into yourself, or to connect to different things, or you feel like you're not really connected to. You have to swing the other way. Okay, there's overcorrection. You may have heard this all the time. This happens a lot. Okay, we discover that we move to certain pressures and then we overcorrect in the other direction. Right? We overcorrect by saying, I'm going to redo everything. This is not going to happen anymore. That's overcorrection. It happens all the time in manifesting. All the time. People will manifest and say, all right, I'm just going to move and redo my whole life. And then my manifestations will come.
But does that really change everything? No, it just means you moved from one place to another, and now you're going to do the same patterns of your subconscious that you were doing before.
You're still you.
Still the same person.
But when you felt the energy to manifest, it's there. Okay, the opportunity is there. It doesn't require this giant change. It requires you figuring out how to be yourself, right? So if you get a lot of anxiety as you start to make changes, that anxiety comes from not knowing how everything and everyone is going to react.
And fit, and how to receive, and maybe your value. There's a lot of aspects there that may come.
Because we're predictive. We're intuitive, but we're very, very predictive of our environment. So we pick up on signals, and then we use our intuition to try to predict the easiest pressure forward. And it's happening at such a massive scale. It's happening so much faster than our conscious brain can even fully comprehend unless you train it.
But if you feel that there's something that's there, then you already are picking up on it. If you feel like there's something that needs to be changed, or that there's plenty of this that needs to happen, then it's there. You just need to find the door.
Yeah, if you have anxiety when you feel something, that anxiety is telling you there's something going on. I don't know how to say this. I don't know how to tell my ancestors that I like this instead of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I struggled with it for years. My whole childhood, the pressure of my mom saying something very nice when I was first born created the pressure of how I was supposed to do that for other people, how I was supposed to be what my mom said very nice things about me being, and connect to the other side of my family.
But that was his own self-imposed things.
Because I didn't know how to communicate myself. I didn't know how to step into their world and talk about who I am without creating conflict. Mm-hmm. I only knew for a very long time how to talk to myself. I had to learn and evolve communication wise. I had to learn and understand that when there's a question or a trigger or a look or a vibrational shift, it's because of their experience. right? And if that's their experience and that's not what I'm intending, then I either had to get better at connecting and seeing that ahead of time, or I had to make
Shifts. Yeah, and learn either to talk in their perspective and understand what it is that they're looking for and understand how to communicate with them or make a shift within myself.
So you want to connect to different audiences, you're always going to have to know how to speak to those audiences. And that we say the term audiences, but an audience is whoever it is you're talking to. So an audience is your friend, an audience is your family. And it's really easy once you start to use the word audience to understand that that's your communication term, where the pressure is coming from. Because that word kind of triggers in our brain and makes us think about being on stage, or makes us think about having a microphone in front of us, or makes us think about the pressure of the communication and the perception of that moment. And that's what's happening in our relationships. And what we've learned in our subconscious is how to navigate that pressure easily, right? So it's easier to go back out on the same level in connection in that mirror that Raena says, as we follow that kind of plentiness, is just never changing the situation. So as you kind of look at yourself and what patterns that you desire, there's a big piece of you that exists and likes those connections and love and respect, and thinks that it will drastically alter if you drastically alter. And more often than not, people's reaction is from what you think their reaction is going to be.
Because they're picking up on it. They're intuitive. They can feel what it is that you're wanting. And they give it to you.
There's quite a few of us from quite a few different countries here. And I know that there is a sentence or two that I can say in any of your countries that will be very, very difficult in terms of cultural history, ancestral programming, and all kinds of things that are going on. Simple thing. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can go into any country and do something that kind of makes it feel like you don't really understand that country. Mm. That's a lot of pressure. It's a pressure you feel at 1 or 2 or 3 when you're connecting to an audience, when you're connecting to your life, right? And you decide, do I want that pressure or do I not? The biggest block to manifestations isn't I'm waiting for an opportunity. The biggest block to manifestations is, do you really want that level of interaction, that level of change?
That level of unknown.
Because people will say, I would like to have so much money that I never have any stresses in the world. And we let them know usually that that's a double manifestation. You're manifesting for a lot of money and no stress. It's 2 different things. You say, well, what do you mean? Well, when you get a lot of money and people see it, because you spend it, right? You gotta go buy your food, and all of a sudden you're buying groceries that you want instead of just what you need. People see you're more abundant. So there's a new pressure. People see you. Even at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. Even just the fact that you went from the 25-cent soda to the $2 soda. Mm-hmm. People notice. They can feel it and they can see it. When they notice, they want to know how to get there. How do I get there too? So there's a ton of people who figured out that they want abundance and people not to know about it. There's a great story. Mom talked about Jim. We talked about it too. Jim Sorensen, one of the first people that Mom worked with and met, that was one time a very, very wealthy person before he passed away. When she met him, he had like holes in his pockets. He had an index card with the amount of money he would spend every day. And he drove this old beat up truck. Like, he did not look like he was on the top of the list. And it was simple. He didn't want to be seen. He wanted his company and his product and his things to be seen because he'd learned he didn't like the pressure of what it looked like if people saw he was abundant. Mm-hmm. So he never let them see it. That way he could just be him, which means he figured it out. He figured out his pattern. He figured out how it worked for his subconscious and said, this is what I want to do, and this is where I want to be, and this is how I'm going to do it. Right? So as we kind of move into your week, as you move into the next month, as you get ready for classes that are coming up, perhaps, or expanding your journey, all of these different moments that you have in life, you're deciding the patterns of plenty. Okay? You're deciding where to next. You're deciding what to do. You're deciding what you look like in the mirror, and you're deciding how many people you're going to look in the mirror and see you with you, right? Imagine you have that mirror in front of you and you're connecting to your subconscious, and then you're spending half the time going, well, only I can look inside and see this part of the mirror. You can only see that part of the mirror. So take this time to kind of figure out what you want that to be. And the resonance of you fits. Okay, it doesn't not fit. There isn't parts of yourself that need to be
hidden
or not allowed. Those parts of yourself have a place. They fit. They maybe don't need to be extreme. They don't need to be overwhelming. They don't need to be
loud.
Loud, exactly. Like Jim. Maybe they can be who you want to be in a very unique way. When you figure that out, you know where you are and how you want to do it. And once you start to know where you fit, you start to see better how other people are fitting or attempting to fit. When you know how they're attempting to fit, you know their motivations, you know how to connect to it. You know, put yourself out there. All this wonderful time and opportunity and connection that's going on. People think when we say this, we're talking just about putting yourself on socials. Putting yourself out there is a conversation. It's a moment of authenticity. We had this yesterday. We did some little camera thing, just a little camera thing.
It was pretty fun. Right, we stood in the center of this camera that spun around us, and you had to do some dancing and moving around, whatever it was. And we were doing some dancing, and then it slows down in specific spots and goes backwards and plays it afterwards, of course, what it looks like. And it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's a great thing. And we're standing there, and Raena and Kennedy were getting up there first, and they turned around and said, you guys should do it. We should all do it together. And we said, sure. Yeah, that sounds fun. Why not? And then when we did it, we just got up there and talked about having fun, and we talked about just sort of enjoying the moment, and we pointed out different things, and we had a great time. And as we had a great time, we get off, and Raena goes over. She starts talking to the person who does it. And the person who does it's explaining how it works, and she's having a great time. So much so that her partner had to like start the other person and got a little frustrated because she was having such a good time in that conversation. But it's okay. It worked out. I mean, the person wanted that connection, right? They wanted that opportunity. They had asked, and Raena was granting that. We're walking around and we're checking out all the little fun booths of different people, and there's little intuitives here and little trinkety cool stones and all kinds of stuff that was going on, and all
face painting, you know, lots of fun things.
So the event person, one of the event camera people that works for the event and connecting and distributing information, all of a sudden just like walks up to us, boom, he's right there. And he's got his little thing, and it's from this little video, and he had seen the video because the lady had shown him that she thought it was cool. And he walked up and had a picture of it, and he said, is this you guys? And he already knew it was us. That was his icebreaker, right? We're like, yeah, that's us. And then, of course, he says, can we use it? You know, they send you a video. Can you send it to us to cut and put into different things? And then they exchange information and Instagrams to tag. And we didn't market anything. It's not like we're like, hey, you should partner up and market and sell this moment. No, we just let the moment be trusted. We let ourselves arrive in it.
And have fun and enjoy it and let it be what it is.
Connections that you make like that, connections that you make to people who see you, if you feel the opportunity to approach them, that little intuition, you should go say hi, go say hi. The key to opening up the doors of so much manifestations is following those little things that create more connections.
And being yourself. When we sat in the parade yesterday, I couldn't tell you how many times I kept saying, just sit next to Raena because she's so excited because I'm just waving around my flags and just getting so excited. I just love parades.
Not gonna lie, we got a lot of free stuff.
A lot.
Just because Raena is very, very cool.
Just
people,
fun.
People running over to give lots of free stuff.
But if you know yourself, you know yourself. You just enjoy life. I didn't mind. It was great. But it was an exchange.
Yeah, it's an exchange. You find that pattern, you kind of allow yourself to grow in those moments and arrive. And one of the things to think about this week is how many times you're in the moment. How many times you're still working on the last moment
or the moment to come.
Because yes, we do a lot of work in the past. We do a lot of work on the future. And those are huge things because we know what we're creating.
But not so much that you forget about right now, in the moment, the feeling, the enjoyment of right now. There's so much to enjoy now.
Yeah, what you're doing right now, the way you showed up at this webinar, the notes you're taking, that's the connection to what's going to happen in the next moment, yes. Right? And embracing it. That's not too much pressure. It's just you getting a chance to be you. And you can change that. Doesn't mean you have to repeat it if you didn't like it. It means you can go in and find out why or how you move forward. So we hope that as you move forward, that you're able to take a look at, see these things that you're creating on your journey, that you're able to move forward with the kind of connection and opportunity that you desire in your own patterns of plenty. And if you're moving forward in that journey to connect to others and kind of show that mastery or shine that mastery for the world, then we will see you at a different instructor class, maybe the one coming up.
Oh yeah, it's going to be
this month.
At the end of June, there's going to be a start with basic, advanced, dig deeper, young creator.
June's the best.
All the way through the He's only saying that because it's going to be his birthday, June 10th. So
I'm just saying June's the best month. I'm just saying you should know.
No, you know
it's the best month.
That's why. So there you go. So June goes into July, which is so much fun. And of course, we're doing a Discover Your Algorithm on the 13th and 14th if you guys want to join us as well. So that's
Discover Your Algorithm instructors.
Instructors, yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I learn the schedule while we're talking to you guys. Just so you know, like they ask us about the schedule, we write it down. It sits in the calendar. And then Raena says we're doing a webinar for something, and then they say you should mention. Like, oh yay, we're doing that. I know we're heading places, but I'm not so good with the days of different days.
We're staying in the moment. It's perfect. Gotta have
Thank
you both together.
Thank you very much.
And we appreciate everybody coming and being here today to of course, not only to celebrate Josh's June birthday, but to be here at this webinar and every month, and all of the interpreters. We really appreciate you very much.
Thank you for all the early birthday wishes. That's why I'm saying thank you. I appreciate that.
You're so funny.
It's very, very kind.
Yes.
Hope you guys have a wonderful month full of figuring out what you create in plenty amounts and shifting it to the ones that you would like.
Absolutely. Have a fabulous evening, day, whatever it is for you. We will see you all next month, if not in class. Bye, everyone.